Does drawing through with pastels feel overwhelming for you? If so, you're absolutely not alone. But today we're going to take it step by step, real time, just one small 3-inch section. You can absolutely do this. Let's make a start. So let's take a look at something that's not going to be too intimidating. Okay, you've got to remember with animals, fur, it's never usually going to be super easy if you want to make it realistic and detailed. But let's just look at a small 3-inch square Pastelmat paper. Pulled out a few pencils that I've tested on my sheet of scrap paper to look about the right colours. Let's just get some white. I'm not even going to put a drawing on it. I'm going to estimate that the white is around about there and it's coming up to around about there. Okay, so that area roughly is going to be the white. The darker colour then coming around here, so let's say it scoops from around there down to about there. That's more of a reddy colour, so let's just indicate that that's going to roughly do that as well. And now I'll look at putting in the basic colour, okay, the general colour. Now, you look at what you've got in your supplies, whether it's PITT, my favourite carbothello, or perhaps this Derwent, okay, they're my 3 favourites. Pick what you've got that's close. Test it on your piece of paper. That's fairly close. Let's say that's the only other one I've got. Perhaps the 2 combined is even closer. Okay, that's how it works. I've got a video showing colour picking. I don't want to overcomplicate this one, so I'm just going to use my pencil on the side. Okay, every couple of strokes, twist it, give it another go. Every couple of strokes, then twist it again. That stops the pencil from getting a flat edge and keeps it pointy on the end. So just a general colour. That's all I'm looking for. And it comes out around here, so let's use a pencil in the fur direction, mostly. Okay, at this stage it doesn't matter that much. We've got to get some form of pastel down on the paper to get rid of, obviously, the paper colour and eventually the texture as well. So I'm going to put more of this, what was it, Faber-Castell 182. Let's try a bit of that on top to try and get a little bit more of a realistic colour. This is super basic stuff, so I'm not even going to try and match that colour very much at all. Just want you to get the hang of using a pencil on the paper. If you've never used pastel before, at this stage, this will feel similar to coloured pencil, as in, it doesn't really move anyway. Not a lot comes off, okay? It doesn't smudge or anything yet. In here, it goes more of a reddy brown, so I've got a PITT 169. So let's darken this area on top. Out here it goes more of a browny colour. So let's see, what's that? Carbothello 610, and all the colours work together. So you could put, if you've ever heard of pan pastels, you could put them down as an underlayer. I do that quite often in my lessons, especially on big drawings, or you can use pastel sticks. As I said, they all work together. Just put that a bit into there. And as you can see, you can use one colour with another to kind of, well, change the colour. It's not kind of, it is changing the colour. Like glazes going on top. Down in here, let's put a bit more of that reddy colour in. Building up a base layer. Now on top, this is kind of a pinky grey colour, so I've got a pinky and I've got a grey colour. Doesn't need to be complicated, doesn't need to be incredibly serious when you're doing your drawings. You don't have to think colour wheel. complementary colours. You don't have to think of any of that when you're beginning. Just think, let's try and get it to look like the photo. So I'm going to put a bit of grey in here as well. Perhaps just try a little bit of white already. Now you'll be thinking, maybe thinking, how do I select the colours and how do I get it just right and perfect? I've got lessons, colour picking lessons and things like that. Got hundreds of lessons on my Patreon art channel that I built up over 9 years. So you can delve in deeper, but let's just think at the moment of trying to get the feel of the pastel before we worry about getting things right. Let's just have a bit of fun with it. See, I can see it's a bit lighter up there. Okay. So what I'm really after at this stage, let's make this a bit more vibrant, is kind of a look that if I blurred my eyes, that's the kind of thing that I'm expecting to aim for. A blurry version of this. Nothing perfect, just a blurry version of it. I'm going to make it, let's put some of that down in there. I'm going to make it even more blurry now. I think I'll put a little bit of grey. Let's see, that's a bit too light. Let's use a darker colour, PITT 180. And then I'll get my grey out of my drawer. I use a fairly dark grey. Let's see. There. That's going to tone that down. So make it a bit darker. Put it into a bit more shadow. Okay. Perhaps I'm seeing a little up there too. Now, this is light blue Pastelmat paper, so there's not much tooth to it. So now I've got a couple of layers of pastel on there. I can use my finger in small circular strokes. See? And blend it. A little bit of pastel comes on the finger. Now I can use a microfiber cloth. Let's grab one. Just get my finger. Little wipe, okay? Won't all come off. And then let's go up here. You can use your finger on top of the other one. It gives you a bit more pressure. Not I'm pushing hard, but you don't want your finger to get all sore and tired. And then up here, the whites blend more easily and they're more opaque. Now that layer, see it's got a little bit of yellow into it, doesn't matter. Could have been done with pan pastels or pastel sticks. As I said, doesn't matter. Now, second layer. Let's look at refining it and getting it more accurate. Because now I've got an underlayer that's allowing me to get smoother looking pastels. The grain of the papers not showing through much now. And it's also giving me that starting map to kind of go by. So I can judge things more easily now. I can blend again. See, I'm going more in the fur direction now. All that colour down in there. The tonal value, lights and darks, that's the most important. See, now I'm starting to put a bit of texture in there. Turn the pencil every now and again. This is just a basic idea. I go into it in more in depth, obviously, on my art channel, because I've got those long duration videos. But what you want to be careful of if you're watching on YouTube is don't keep jumping around with lessons and actually not doing any drawing yourself, because I can guarantee that's just going to make you confused, overwhelmed, and you're not actually going to learn anything because you're not doing anything yourself. So give easy lessons a go. Another thing to be careful of is too many tutors that may be doing things in different ways. Not saying I'm right, others are wrong, but don't do too many tutors, okay? Once you pick somebody, stick with them for a while and then move on if you want to try something else. Otherwise you'll get confused with all different methods. You know, back in the third direction. So you see, even though it softens, it doesn't blend it away to nothing at all. Right, now I can make it even darker. Some areas up here. People ask me, do I use fixatives in between layers? No, don't really have to with Pastelmat. It's holding on to the pastel well. Trouble with fixatives is they do dull lots of colors and it's not kind of even. It'll be some colors will go dull, others won't seem to be affected. So I personally don't use fixatives at all. You could use them for an underlayer, but certainly never for an upper layer, nor on Pastelmat. As the layers build, don't go blending too much with your fingers, because what will happen is that it will just keep going, just keep smudging. Okay, and we want that on the first couple of layers, but we don't want it on the upper layers, because you'll create detail like this and then it'll blend and blur to nothing. And what you'll end up doing is putting more and more and more layers on, and you end up with just a blended, blurry mess. Right, I'm not going to do too much more here. As I said, this is not one of those hyper-realistic type drawings. Just want to show you a bit of drawing fur and how you can have a bit of fun yourself. Let's put a little bit of, let's see, what am I seeing up in here? Kind of a browny colour. Do I just need to go a bit more grey? Perhaps a little bit more pink. As long as it's a bit darker than I want the top to be, that'll be fine. And thinking about the direction the fur is coming, sweeping around here, and it comes around more like that. Not quite the right colour. Doesn't need to be exact. When you're following my lessons, that's one thing you'll learn. And I notice I say frequently, doesn't need to be perfect, exact at all. When the animals move, when the lighting changes, all this changes as well, the lighting effects. Okay, let's go a bit darker here. As you do each layer, it becomes easier to see what needs adjusting. Now some colours, like extremely rich dark browns especially, you'll only get with pastel sticks. So you either give it the best go you can with what you've got, or you get a few pastel sticks, as I said, especially those browny colours. Okay. Now, as I put the upper layers on, I'm thinking much more about fur direction. Fur direction, lights and darks. Seeing a few of those greys in there. It's coming down here as well. And then up here, I'm thinking more lighter colours. So I'm going to start off by going not too light. Because fur has got usually many layers. As I said, I'm not going crazy detail on this. So as I want more hairs, more defined hairs, push a bit harder, twirl the pencil, don't forget, every now and again. In this case, I don't want it to look like it's all brushed in a perfect direction. I want some stray hairs going around. This comes out into the white. And then we go lighter again. I could use Derwent or Carbothello. You'll find they feel different. That one's a little bit too white, too light. Starting up here and coming towards this more frontal area. Bring more of a richer browner colour. As I said, this is really not, I'm not looking at the colours, trying to get them super accurate, as I said. Sometimes it's nice just to pick up a few pencils and have a play around. Especially when you're starting, you don't really stressing about it being perfect. As you train your eyes, so you will see more things and more accuracy. Okay, so let's come in now with white. Or in fact, let's go with that pinky colour up here first. Notice how the pastel is not causing loads of dust. Pastelmat paper holds it really well. Okay. So we're not getting tons of dust flying around or anything like that. People think pastel drawing is very, very dusty, but it doesn't need to be. Not the way I do it. Okay, so it comes out. See why that underlayer needed to be slightly lighter than the white I was going to put on top. And I work my way back again. Now, if you want more detail, or the impression of more detail, sharpen your pencils more, but also work larger. With pastels, we get the benefit of being able to work large and for it to be really quite quick to do as well. As I said, I'm not going crazy with the details. Just wanted to show you, you can do something in, just a few minutes really. Play around with things and test things out. Don't start off by, thinking, wow, I got to first go with pastels, I'm going to do a big finished drawing. Or even worse, some form of commission that perhaps a family member has asked you to do because you've said to them, well, I like to do a bit of drawing and I just drew a dog or something like that. And that can bring a lot of pressure. Okay, so I'm not going to do a lot more than that. It's given us a bit of an impression of the fur, whether this is most probably a cat fur, that colour. And just going in and popping in a bit of colour. You can use the pencils like this, soften an area as well. Put a bit of that ginger colour in there. Just drag some down. Pastels probably, I think pastels and oils are the most forgiving of all the mediums. You can just keep going and going with it for a long time with pastels and pretty much forever with oils. So that's why I found it quite easy. When I knew the right supplies to use with pastels, I transitioned then from pastels, from doing oils for 20 years to pastels, and my pastels were quite good, straight away because I had that background with oils. Now in here, could have gone a bit darker. Perhaps up in here, put a bit more dark. There you go. That's a little something to try out yourself. So you gain some confidence with pastels. I've got lots of confidence type of lessons on my channel. So you build that confidence before you start really going for more complicated subjects. So hopefully you like this. Give me a shout out in the comments if you've got a specific subject you'd like me to do. Or perhaps you've already done one of my lessons. You can tell me how you found it. And see you all on the next video.